I want to say something.
Yeah. Hello? Yes. Hello, everybody. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. People in the room are not very numerous, but they will come. We have quite a lot of people online already. My name is Hervé Levit. I'm working at FAO at the Office of Climate Change, Environment and Biodiversity, and I will be the moderator of this meeting. I'm part also of what we call the FAO Green City Initiative. It's a new initiative that has been launched 3 years ago by the DG of FAO to transform the urban agenda with some means FAO is developing: urban and peri-urban forest, urban and peri-urban agriculture, of course, food systems and nutrition, and circular economy. The aim of this program is to reach municipalities, to help local government, and to give them the opportunity to build resilience to climate shocks, but also to food and nutrition crises. We have at this stage only some modest actions, but in big and some important cities like Abidjan, Dakar, Antananarivo, Kigali in Africa. And we want to go further and reach many other cities. Our DG wants us to reach 1,000 cities by 2030. That's why we are looking for ideas on how to mobilize energies, citizens, and especially young citizens, young generations. We have organized this side event together with several organizations. First, the HLPE, the high-level panel of experts on food security, IFAD, who is there in the room, EU Climate Kick, you will know more about this program, and 2 universities of South Africa and Senegal, as well as a researcher from Burkina Faso. So I will put an image of all the people involved in this discussion, this conversation, that we want to be very open, and we are really looking for ideas to mobilize young people in this agenda. So first I want to thank Professor Lehmann, who is the president of the high-level panel of experts on the food security and nutrition, who accepted to we will open this side event. I will give some a view of the agenda. After the opening, there will be a keynote presentation from South Africa, from Jane Battersby, who will give us a good idea of what she has started to do as a chairperson working on the new report of the HLPE. Then we will have 4 testimonies, I would say. One, voice of a young lady working in Burkina Faso as a PhD student, who will give us a very interesting view of how she feel young urban youth is has some difficulties, some challenges to look at agriculture. Then Jessie in the room, Jessie Fagan from FAO, is going to present a very interesting project called Green Jobs for Youth Employment. We will have then Silvia Doglioni from Climate Kick, who will present a technique that mobilizes the municipalities and citizens, which is called the Climathon. And finally, there will be a speech of the Professor Diegane Diouf from the University of Sine Saloum in Senegal, looking at the responsibilities of universities, even decentralized universities, in the urban agenda. So first, I want to thank and to introduce Bernard. I said already that he is the president of the high-level panel of experts. He is also an agricultural and food economist, member of the executive board of the Global Crop Diversity Trust. He is also chairman of the Foundation Council of the Research Institute of Organic Agriculture in Switzerland, called FIBEL, and chairman of the Science Policy Interface of the Swiss Academy of Science. Please, Bernard, the floor is yours for this introduction.
Thank you so much, Jill. Good morning, everybody. Welcome here in person or welcome online. Thank you to all of you for attending this important side event, Mobilizing Urban Youth in Climate Change Adaptation Solutions in Africa. It is a particular pleasure for me as old professor to be among young generation. That is really a pleasure because the futures belong to you. The HLPE, I am invited and co-organizer as HLPE in this panel and for this panel, because HLPE elaborates reports on different topics within the food system. These different topics can be seen as building blocks of topics for the whole food system. The food system is a very broad puzzle and a system. Food security and nutrition is a very complex issue. So in recent years, we have had the themes of agroecology. We have also food security and nutrition in general in the report of the global narrative, showing us that it is urgent to do something more to transform the food systems and to eliminate the weaknesses that we have within the food system. We have also dealt with the issue of data in food systems, missing data all over the world, and also the weaknesses in using the data. That was an important report. We have tomorrow we will present in the plenary of CFS the report on inequalities within food systems. Inequalities as an umbrella topic also for the gender issue discussed yesterday in the CFS, and currently a drafting team with Jane Bartlesby teams is working on a report on urban food system. That is also the main reason why we are involved in this side event. Within the food system, everything is connected, but we have to be precise in the different topics, but we have also to interlink the different topics. Urban has to do with inequalities, urban has to do with agroecology, urban has also to do with entrepreneurship, with data, and so on. It is so important. And we realized in all these reports we made, or the drafting teams created for us, that implicitly or explicitly we have vulnerable people, we have young people, we have the gender problems. In each report we have realized that this is a weak position in order to improve the food system in a better way. Eradicate hunger and malnutrition, for example. It is so important to find keys, to find drivers, to boost the food system in the right direction. That's the reason why in our report, Global Narrative, we gave a new definition for the food security. Currently, we had availability, access, stability, and use. And we realize more and more that behind access, we have a lot of different drivers giving us the problem of access to food. One of these drivers is agency. Agency we will discuss, and Jane will also mention more deeply this notion. Agency is really necessary to be improved in order to create the ability of vulnerable people and young people to create their own future, to build their own future. This is so important. And the second aspect is sustainability. Sustainability in a very broad sense, climate change mitigation on one side, but adaptation to the climate change which will come. And I think that today we have these two elements, agency, ability of young people, and also dealing with the creating solutions for problems of the climate change. That is really a very good project we will have presented today. It will be also the question how we can design the best conditions, the best framing conditions in order to help these projects of these young people. And it will also be interesting for me to listen about the experiences they made in this project in order to have more information how the framing conditions could be improved. With these words, this brings me to the topic and the presentation in the keynote from James Battersby. She will introduce us this topic. She is a human geographer. Hello, Jane. We don't see each other. Good morning, Jane. She is a human geographer with an interest in all things food related. She has been at University Cape Town in various capacities. She studied in Great Britain, in England. Her current area of particular interest are urban food system, urban food policies, and the construction of food security theory in northern and southern research. She is collaborating with several NGOs. She is active in a number of UN agencies. She is a member of IPBES, for IPES, food expert panel, serves also at FAO GAIN, Urban Food System Working Group, and Urban Food Quality Systems Coalition. She was a team member of the CFS HLPE Reducing Inequalities for Food Security report, which will be presented tomorrow. And she is now team leader of the new report, Strengthening Urban and Peri-Urban Food Systems to Achieve Food Security and Nutrition in the Context of Urbanization and Rural Transformation report. It fits totally with the issue of this site event. That is fantastic. Thank you for being with us, Jane, and you have the floor.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Bernard, for the great welcome. Can I just ask for the team to put the slideshow on presenter mode, please? Oh, can you see the slideshow? Has it gone?
Yes, Jane, hold on. The team is working. Just a few seconds.
No problem. I'll start talking because I only have 12 minutes and I know time is tight in these things. So as Bernard said, I'm leading the latest HLPE report, which is around strengthening urban and peri-urban food systems for food security in the context of urbanization and rural transformation. And today I'm really going to be focusing on the role of agency and thinking about the role of youth in transforming food systems in urban areas. Next slide, please. Okay. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so one of the issues that we're facing, particularly in the African context, is this kind of rapid growth of both cities and our youth populations. So in Africa as a whole, the median age of the population is just 19.7 years old. And by 2050, 1 in 3 young people in the world will live in sub-Saharan Africa. And that's predominantly in urban areas. What we're also seeing, thank you very much, is that is really an Africa-focused issue. So as you can see from this data from our World in Data, about 60% of the African population is younger than 24 years old, far higher than the world average. And what we're seeing is that each year about 10 million to 12 million people enter the labor force, but there's only about 3 million formal jobs created. And so what we have is a youth dividend or youth risk. We're either dealing with a growing urban population that is unemployed, that is a source of potential political unrest, etc., or this is a fantastic opportunity to think about our economies and our food systems differently. And I want us to try and take the second perspective. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. So I'm working on the HLPE report 19, the urban and peri-urban report. And at the heart of this report is this set of questions about how urbanization shapes food security and food systems and their interactions. And so building on HLPE-FSN, the 2020 report, we recognize that food security is based on these 6 dimensions, as Bernard introduced, the addition of agency and sustainability as dimensions. But we're recognizing that the achievement of those dimensions rests upon food systems characteristics. And so availability rests on having a productive and prosperous food system. Access rests upon having an equitable system. And agency exists in the context of an empowering food system. And so what we're thinking about is how those things interconnect and how those things then are shaped by these broader processes of urbanization. And at the core of it is this idea that the right to food is fundamentally linked to the right to the city in urban areas. And how do we generate a system that enables both? How do we leverage youth as an opportunity to exercise the right to the city and to exercise the right to food? In the research on the report, we found these cross-cutting themes across the food system as a whole. One of the issues, and particularly in African cities, is informality, and recognizing that informality is a key part of urban and peri-urban food systems, particularly in the African context. And that there needs to be a shift in governance approaches to enable that system to work well in the interests of food security and sustainable food systems. We've also recognized the issue of food safety and the need for a reframing of food safety and new ways of engaging with food safety and thinking about how we capacitate the sector, but also local government to create conditions that enable food system. We've recognized the cross-cutting issue of waste and thinking about the circular economies and the kinds of opportunities that arises for increasing sustainability, increasing access, increasing kind of employment opportunities, and that the multiple benefits that can come with reducing waste and redistributing and revaluing waste. As already been mentioned, the issue of climate change is a critical issue across the food system and not simply in production. And so again, where are the opportunities to transform the system in inclusive ways that reduces the risk of climate change, increases adaptive capacity, increases mitigation? And then finally, this issue of diversity and resilience. And how do we maintain a diverse system? Because we recognize that food system diversity provides food security benefits and livelihoods benefits. So if we can go on to the next slide. So our draft conceptual framework, and you are the very first people to see this, is we're building on this notion of connecting food security dimensions to food system principles, and in the urban and peri-urban areas, recognizing that those cross-cut the whole food system and are fundamentally shaped by these processes of urbanization, which impact land use, which impact lifestyle and culture, economy and development, households and demography, and this is where the youth comes in, and all of those things are shaping the food system. But these things are happening within these wider global factors of global conflict, which we're really aware of right now, climate shocks, trade flows, etc. So what we're seeing within the food system in urban areas and its connection to food security is profoundly linked to these much bigger systems. So when we're trying to make interventions for change, these policy and governance pathways that you see at the bottom of the slide have to be filtered through an understanding of urban context. We have to just make our policy recommendations, our government's recommendations, in line with understanding the context of local government fiscal and administrative capacity, in the context of understanding the fragilities, the inequalities, the infrastructural basis. And when we're thinking about including youth in these processes and thinking about youth as agents of transformation, we also need to filter that through this deep understanding of the context that we're in. And I think the examples we're going to hear a bit later from the other presenters will speak to those contextual issues. So let's move on to the next slide, and my time is moving fast. So tomorrow, HLPE-FSN, the inequalities report, is going to be released, discussed. And at the heart of that report is this notion of this engine of equity as a means to improve inequality, to increase agency. And at the heart of that is this notion that we need to increase recognition, recognize marginalized populations, recognize those who are experiencing inequalities in the deepest ways, increase their representation in governance spaces, and address the distributional inequalities. And so what does that mean in terms of youth and agency? Well, some of the principles that come out of this are around supporting diverse food system activities and recognizing that by supporting diversity, there's increased recognition, potentially increased representation, and increased distribution. It's about increasing participation in governance processes. So making sure that everyone is invited to the table, because we know if you're not invited to the table, you're probably on the menu. And really, when we have these multi-partner processes, acknowledging real differences in power and voice. And so not including youth in a tokenistic way, but really recognizing the voice of the youth and seeking to address those imbalances in power. And then finally, about claiming new spaces of influence, new spaces of impact, and new ways of speaking back. So I'm going to close out my presentation with 3 very short examples of things we're doing or we've seen working in Cape Town. So the first is this, what you see here, the Massey Ambassadors Program, which emerged out of some work that we were doing. And it's turned into a community-led, youth-led ambassadors program for nutrition within the community. And a number of things they're doing. They're working within schools and early learning centers around nutrition education, working with the clinics, so working in partnership with government to improve breastfeeding, uptake, and those kinds of dimensions. But one of the really critical things they're doing is trying to find a new way of engaging with the state. So they found that the state is often quite repressive towards informal sector activities, such as informal traders and early childhood development centers that are not really within the legal framework. But when the government comes in hard, the community don't have a chance to respond. And so what the ambassadors have done is invited the environmental health officers from the city to talk to them, to explain to them the processes so that they can go out and engage the actors to make them compliant in a way that's enabling. So it's shifting the kind of mode of engagement. Next slide. The next opportunity is this group called Food Agency Cape Town, which has set itself up as a kind of food activist organization, which is very strongly youth-led. And in their actions, they are doing collaborative research and using this research as a way to provoke conversations at the community level. So they produced this piece of work a few years ago, which they now have community reading circles to discuss the right to food, to discuss the ways in which food could be put onto the urban agenda, and the way in which communities can learn to speak back to the state. And so it's this other approach, this kind of more activist approach. The final example is not a food example, but I think it's a really interesting example of youth-led transformation. So if we can have the next slide, please. So the next one is a citizen science project that operated in Lagos, Accra, and Cape Town, in which they were trying to raise awareness about issues of air quality. And so they set up teams of runners who were wearing air quality monitors and used this to generate data, to generate public awareness of the issues of air quality, and to feed new kinds of data back into city government processes. So we've seen a group that's actively trying to bridge civil society and state. We found a group that's trying to increase community agency and community voice. And now this group that's trying to generate new forms of data and new forms of understanding. So my final slide is simply this. So we can just have the last slide, please. Yep. So what we've identified within the reports are these critical food system challenges, but these plenty of opportunities for youth agency to be a part of transformation of that, recognizing these challenges of inclusion and power. And finally, and this is the final vote, is really recognizing that youth are necessary agents of change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane, for this very inspiring, I would say, a kind of lesson we get with a clear framework of what is this question of agency in the food systems, and these very inspiring examples also of mobilization of young people. So please, Jane, stay online because there will be question and answer. With Isabelle and Gilles managing that later. And there are already some remarks on the chat. So now we will go in the conversation to 4 speeches of online speakers, mainly. I will start with a young person that worked with us as an intern. Her name is Melika. She's based in Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso. She's a PhD student, and she's engaged in a climate change program called WASCAL, which is financed by the German government. She will say some words about the program itself. She holds also an engineering degree in environment and energy, and she's really passionate about development of activities, climate smart agriculture, environmental issues. I hope we will be able to reach quickly. You are there, Melika?
Yes, I'm there.
Yes. So to get the image, we will give you the floor in one moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Melika, the floor is yours for 5-6 minutes. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for giving me this opportunity this morning to present on the challenges faced by the urban youth in engaging in agriculture. And thank you, Hervé, for introducing me. Can we move to the next page, please? So today I will be presenting you the challenges, and to do so, I will quickly give you an introduction about it and then present you the general challenges that are faced by the urban youth and will present you additional challenges. So I am Melika Vodunesi, and as Hervé said, I'm a PhD student working in climate change and agricultural land management with WASCAL and also PIC, a German institute involved in climate impact research. So can you move please to the next slide? So we all know that climate change is one of the more pressing global challenges of our time. And it's important to note that African countries are impacted by climate change effects on agriculture. And this can be seen with events such as drought, soil degradation, food insecurity, water scarcity, and also altered growing season, flood events, and also reduced crop yield and even decrease in arable area. So all those impact of the climate change in Africa country on the agricultural field. So another fact is that by 2030, young Africans are expected to constitute 42% of global youth. And this means that it's very important to include them and actively engage them. Actively engage the youth in agriculture, not just as passive witnesses to the change taking place around them, but as active actors playing key role in order to improve agricultural system. So what happened when it's come to engage the youth, and what are the challenges that are faced? So the first challenge that I can mention here is the lack of agricultural knowledge, because there are many youth that have grown up many urban youth that are grown up in urban environments with limited exposure to farming practices. So they don't really know what is agriculture. They don't really know what are farming practices. So when you come and you tell them, okay, please, can you be involved in an agricultural project? They will say, oh, no, I don't, because I don't really feel like this is, I have a knowledge in this field. Another point is the access to land, because obtaining land can be difficult in some Africa contexts. For example, because of land tenure system, and also because of the financial cost that it may cause. Another point is the limited access to resource and the like to financial resource, because peri-urban youth, they are having access to land, but sometimes they can lack access to essential agricultural research, such as seeds, fertilizer, and even modern farming equipment. I'm underlining here modern farming equipment because when I did my internship and I was interviewing people, there's one of these young people, he told me that I'm interested in agricultural, but if you want me to work a lot like my grandparent was doing, I will not be able to do so. But if you are giving me some modern equipment, or you are make me discovering some new technology that I can apply in the agricultural field, then I can be interested in working in this agricultural field. So this was a testimony of a youth I interviewed during my last internship. So there is also the traditional farming practices that are considered as outdated and laborious by youth, as I was saying. And another point is the perception of agriculture itself, because many urban youth view agriculture as less attractive or a prestigious career option compared to the other urban jobs, such as I don't know, being an account member, and this can discourage them from pursuing in the agricultural field. So they don't know, and they don't have testimony of role model who have also succeeded in agriculture. So can you move please to the next slide? So I here want to make a point about additional challenges, because this is what you are seeing on the screen, because I am in the research field, so I'm also working in the agricultural field. I did a modeling to see how the climate change is going to impact the land suitability for those 3 countries that I'm presenting here. So this result, I have not yet presenting it, I'm not yet published the paper, but once I will do it, I will face a challenge to gain entry to the individual with authority. And this is a challenge that is faced by the young researchers, because they don't know, I will say, how to convince the decision maker, and they don't even know where to find them to convince them. So this is another issue that is faced by them, and if this can be solved, to be very good for the agricultural sector. There are also additional issues, such as the issue of marginalized youth, such as the illiterate group, and also the internal displaced people, which is the case here in Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou, due to the security situation. And this includes social stigma because, for example, illiteracy, they don't want to practice agriculture and then prefer other careers options that do not emphasize the lack of literacy. So I really hope that and think that by addressing all these challenges that I mentioned above with good initiatives such as the FAO Green Initiative, will help to, and by also providing a tailored support to the urban youth in Africa, will also help those urban youth to play a crucial role in revitalizing the agricultural sector and also in making it more resilient to climate change. Thank you. And I've put some references for those who are interested to learn more about it. And thank you to you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Melika. Thank you for that. But the message is not very optimistic. In fact, for you, it's really very difficult for young people to really wanting to engage in this food system transformation in the future of agriculture. I will call now a second panelist who is in the room, Jessie Fagan, to give us another view of things that are happening at the moment with an FAO project in Sierra Leone, Timor-Leste, and Zimbabwe. Jessie Fagan is a program officer at FAO, leading the Green Jobs sub-team under the December Rural Employment Team here in Rome. She has 10 years of work experience in decent rural employment-related issues, including green jobs, youth employment, child labor prevention, in agriculture, occupational safety and health, and a just transition. She's the lead technical officer of the FAO Green Jobs for Rural Youth Employment Project. She has a Master's of Environmental Economics of the University of Barcelona and a bachelor degree of International Development from McGill University. Please, Jessie, the floor is yours. I put the presentation on how you do it from your place. What do you
Thank
prefer?
you so much.
Coming. 1 second. Yes.
Thank you. Am I able to change the slides from here, or should I ask you to do so? Okay, no problem. Hello, everyone. It's excellent to be here with you this morning. Today, I'll be discussing the importance of youth in the green transformation by providing insights from the Green Jobs for Rural Youth Employment Project. Next slide. So I'll be giving a snapshot of the Green Jobs for Rural Youth Employment Project that's currently being implemented in the 3 countries, as I've mentioned, and I'll be presenting a short video. I'm very much hoping that the audio will work with us today and be able to hear the audio and the video. It's just a short video of 1.5 minutes. And then, of course, I'm going to be highlighting how this project relates to this important side event today. Next. So the Green Jobs for Rural Youth Employment Project is a 4.5-year project funded by the Korean International Cooperation Agency. It started in 2019 and will end mid-2024. The project's being implemented in Sierra Leone, Zimbabwe, and Timor-Leste. It has 2 overall objectives, one being the provision of green jobs for rural young people, and the second being supporting the respective governments in the transition to the green economy by really utilizing the full potential of the full employment potential of the agriculture sector. Next. The project has a several-step approach. Across the 3 countries, 600 youth beneficiaries have been selected. These beneficiaries first are provided with soft skills training, and this includes topics on gender leadership, communication, problem identification, problem solving, as well as skills on climate change and decent employment and entrepreneurship. In each district, in each country, we carry out employment and value chain assessments to understand which are the more viable value chains that we can work with our youth. And then our youth beneficiaries have the options of joining a waged employment program or a green entrepreneurship track. So under the waged employment program, they are provided with monthly wages for a period of 2 years while working with implementing partners. And the green entrepreneurship track, they're supported with financial support and mentorship. And prior to entering into either of these employment options, they're provided with sector-specific skills to be able to start their employment properly. Next. The project takes a participatory approach, so it empowers young people to identify their own issues related to environment and food security in their respective communities and come up with employment solutions to be able to tackle those issues. It empowers them through training and capacity building with sector-specific training for employment opportunities. It also provides capacity development to local actors, including government and local institutions. Finally, the project takes on a leave no one behind approach, where, as I mentioned before, youth have 2 options for employment opportunities. And so, for example, those who present business proposals and who are not selected, they're able to join the wage employment program. Next. Thus far, the project has yielded important results. This includes decent green job creation. Jobs have been created across various value chains with an array of different implementing partners and local stakeholders, including private sector, local government, academic institutions, community-based organizations, and more. Youth are also becoming local champions in their respective communities for sharing information on climate action and engaging other young people in agriculture. So also generating a stronger interest in agriculture amongst their peers. Moreover, the project has prioritized a gender balance and has recorded important qualitative data on women empowerment amongst beneficiaries with spillover effect in respective communities. In many wage employment programs, for example, female participants have a leadership role. In addition, there's a mix between graduate and lower educated youth, which is leading to an important transfer of skills and knowledge. Finally, the team has collected data suggesting high rates of indirect employment created. Youth are creating additional jobs, especially in the business entrepreneurship track, where they're employing additional youth full-time to be a part of their business, as well as creating casual labor for specialized tasks. Next. So now I will showcase a video of one of our wage employment programs where our youth are working on apiculture and horticulture.
Kana ukawana mukano unenge wasvika kwamuri ingoitaiwo sezviri kuitawo vamwe nokuti upenyu hunongoshanduka nguva diki diki. Patiri isusu takutoona kuti in some months yatatanga zveapiculture upenyu hwedu hwatochinja.
The idea is that one of the apiaries can be turned into a classroom where youth from different parts of a district or a ward can come just like as a school.
Tinotarisira kuti tichazokwanisa kuti tigadzire mamwe mahives akati wandei mushure mekunge tahavhesta nyuchi dzedu uchi hwedu tatengesa uchi hwedu. Zvakadaro tiri kutarisira kuti tidyare miti kuitira kuti nyuchi dzedu, miti yedu yakaita semijakaranda.
Bees are perfect for green jobs in the sense that they need very different plants. So bees actually promote biodiversity conservation. When you look after trees, we are looking after our climate, we are looking after our food, we are looking after our life, because bees promote diversity. So beekeeping is a low-hanging fruit.
Next slide. So how does this project relate to this topic today? Well, I wanted to mention 2 particular points that came out in the discussion I had previously with the colleagues here sitting at the panel. The first point to mention is the important skills and knowledge transfer that has been generated by the inclusion of urban and rural youth. Our youth beneficiaries comprise of 20% graduate youth and 80% non-graduate youth with often lower levels of education. By grouping them together, especially in business enterprises, which they choose themselves, there's a strong transfer of skills and experience amongst them. And many of these graduate youth are either coming from urban areas or have been educated in urban areas. So to give you a quick example, we have a group of 4 young people in Zimbabwe who are working on sustainable poultry production and using solar energy to generate energy for their business initiative. And one of the youth beneficiaries have been to university and has a graduate degree, while the other ones have not. And by speaking with them, you understand how much the other youth have benefited from the knowledge, the skills transfer, the discussions. We have including 2 young females who had not graduated from secondary school, who are now benefiting from the skills, the experience of the other youth involved. So we see a strong transfer of skills and knowledge amongst them, which is quite important. The second being the clear market linkages being created between rural, peri-urban, and urban areas. Several of the wage employment programs are located in urban and peri-urban locations and also rely on products grown from rural districts and vice versa. Rural production is supporting local markets, but also production capacity is able to expand by reaching urban markets. Next slide. That's it from my side, and I look forward to taking any questions that might come about. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jessie. It's a very nice presentation, very inspiring, a nice project. We see in particular this question of inclusion that is very important in your project, to mix graduate, non-graduate people and bring everybody to jobs, concrete jobs. But how to create such a project? You know, this is a big project. We will talk about that later. But to generate such an initiative, you need also to mobilize local governments. You need to mobilize all the forces. So this is what we are going to talk about with Silvia Doglioni, who is online. Silvia, she's an entrepreneurship and learning program manager, working at the Climathon organization. She's based in Paris. She's designing and coordinating a lot of actions, including capacity building activities in the Climathon programs. She will explain to us a little bit later. What we are going to learn is this question of, I said before, mobilization of municipalities, in particular by using the technique of what they call the Climathon. Silvia, I give you the floor now.
Thanks, Lothar. I hope you can hear me. Is this working?
Yes.
Okay, nice. Good morning, everybody. Just gonna wait a couple of minutes for the slides.
No.
I think I can start in the meanwhile, so we're not going to lose any time here. So good morning, everybody. I'm Sylvia from EIT Climathon. Yes. And as already mentioned, today I will present you a program that we have been delivering since 2015 all across the globe to mobilize citizen and urban youth to find innovative solutions based upon crisis. This program is called Climathon, as you can see, and it aims to tackle climate change from the ground up. And I will ask you to move to the next slide, please.
Next.
Thanks. So we all recognize that citizen participation in climate action is fundamental, as climate change is one of the most pressing challenges of our time. However, we have seen that the current methods of involving citizens are a bit limited and more similar to point-in-time intervention like occasional voting, consultation, or protest. So while these methods have their merits to address issue effectively, we must transition to a more comprehensive and long-term approach that fosters ongoing engagement with citizens. So it's not only about communicating or collecting feedback, it's more about fostering meaningful involvement in the process of facing climate challenges. Moreover, many citizens are passionate and eager to contribute to positive change in their communities and on a global scale, but their potential often goes untapped because they're often involved as an afterthought. Next slide, please. So citizen participation is an essential aspect because it entails the proactive involvement of citizens in understanding problems and defining avenues for transformation. And it is starting from this at IDEA Climate Kick, we have designed various programs dedicated to empower citizens to actively engage in understanding complex climate-related challenges and collaboratively define strategies for change. We're moving beyond superficial communication, but creating forums, let's say, and opportunities for their involvement. And it is by leveraging our expertise and resources that we offer support to citizens through their journey from initial awareness and desire to act to co-creation of projects. Our goal is not only to mitigate the impact of climate change, but also to improve the quality of life for citizens, creating sustainable and resilient communities. Next slide, please. So in all of that, what it appears fundamental to us is that we need to start from the young generation. We know that those are unprecedented times for the climate movement. Young people are calling for action on climate change, and that's not only something that is just happening in the streets. Youth are telling to their habits of the parents, and the young professionals are reprioritizing their career choice toward purpose-driven organization to make a positive impact in their action. And it is also clear that graduates, young professionals, and future innovators want to contribute to organizations and industries, businesses, and communities that are working on the transition to a net zero society. So the young generation recognize the need for systemic change and want to be equipped with skills and competencies to meet and drive forward the scale transformation required. So mobilizing urban youth in climate challenge adaptation solution is essential to achieve a successful transformation. And this is what we're doing within the Climathon program that represents one of the Climate King answers to this big challenge. It is a program that we have been delivering since 2015, as I said, and until then, more than 600 organizations have delivered Climathon in more than 900 cities all around the globe. It is a program open to everyone that aims to empower communities and young generation to contribute to sustainable and climate-friendly development of their cities and region. And Climathon brings citizens together and has three main objectives. One is to raise awareness about local climate challenges and share climate-relevant learnings. The second one is about to build and strengthen local ecosystems. And the third one is to inspire projects and climate action that address systemic problems leading to climate change locally. And our role as Climate Kick is to orchestrate the global Climathon. I will talk about this a little bit later, and also to support the local organization and local organizer by offering some trainings about our methodology and some additional materials. Next slide, please. In Africa, in the last years, the number of Climathons has been quite enormous increase, I would say. And I'm also really happy to say that the most well-attended Climathon all around the world has been in Sudan in 2019, when the Climathon Khartoum registered 211 participants, which is a very high number for Climathons. Next slide, please. Recently, in this context, we have also run a special Climathon. So in the context of a pilot phase of the project Green Cities for Ecosystem Restoration of the Great Green Wall, VIV, The cities of Kefrine in Senegal, Bobo-Dioulasso in Burkina Faso, and Maradi in Niger have delivered 3 Climathon events in partnership within their local university, which is also an additional added value they have put on this cloud. The aim of those programs were to challenge collective intelligence on environmental issues, but also to encourage the involvement of young people to actively engage with and addressing climate challenges in the green transformation. And this, I really think it represents a perfect combination of how programs like Climathon can support through the university the young generation to lead the green transformation we need. Next slide, please. To conclude, I would like to share 2 main things that we're currently doing. One is about the Climathon Global Days. So if you want to know more about Climathon, starting from this Friday for the entire weekend, we're going to host this Climathon Global Days. It's going to be hosted online, so you can join us virtually via LinkedIn or our YouTube channel. And during those days, most of the Climathon are happening all around the globe, and we're also showcasing the power of communities with tools focusing mainly on the necessity of the transformation in cities. And the next slide and last one is about a new project we are currently launching. It's called Catalyst. It's an initiative funded by BMZ and the Green Climate Fund. And we're currently working with GZ and IPED in West Africa, where we aim to boost investment in promising early stage climate ventures. We already launched the program in Latin America. We're going to launch the program in West Africa at the end of November. In parallel to that, we're also going to launch 2 main call for proposal to run Climathons and accelerator program in 8 West African countries. So if you're interested here, you can see our email address, so feel free to reach out at catalyst@climatekick.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sylvia, for this very inspiring presentation that shows how Climate Kick is now reaching the African continent, working with many cities and bringing jobs in these very important issues. And it's easy for me to make to present the next panelist because he prepared with us this Climathon in Senegal. Professor Diegan Diouf from the University of Sine Saloum is the head of the Faculty of Social and Environmental Science. In Senegal, there are 3 campuses in Kaolack, Fatick, and Kafrine. His past research focused on the evaluation of the effect of environmental stresses, like salt and drought, on microbial ecology and the interactions between plants and microorganisms such as mycorrhizal fungi and rhizobacteria. Professor Diegan, we give you the floor to explain us the responsibilities of the universities in terms of mobilizing young people, bringing them to employment. The floor is yours. I hope.
Thank you. Thank you. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Hervé, and good morning to everyone. My name is Diegan Diouf. I am a professor at University in Saloum El Hadj Ibrahima Niass. As early mentioned by Hervé, it is a new university, an agricultural university, which is located in the central part of Senegal, and with 3 campuses, as mentioned. And I would like to talk about the role of universities in urban agenda. And as you know, universities could contribute with a variety of topics like research, training, job opportunities, cultural and social activities, but also as incubators. And I would like to talk about our case, which is a new university, in 3 topics. The first one is training. The second will be about research. And a third one will be promote community services. And in this last part, I will talk briefly about Climathon, like Sylvia was talking about earlier. Regarding training, university is responsible. Our university is responsible of initial but also continuing training for preparing a young student into entry and working life. And this mission is very important for higher education because it is a responsibility in our university. It is a vocational university. It is vocational training. And it is for professional integration of young in business startups. That's why in our university, we integrate soft skills like leadership, entrepreneurship, because as mentioned earlier by Malika, usually they do not, young students do not have any capacities for to do entrepreneurship or about agriculture. Then we have basic training, but also soft skills to give them opportunities to integrate professional activities. But also in the university, it's not now the case, but it is in the project to give information and orientation, an information orientation office. It is now the communication services which is in charge of that. But it is very important to, because sometimes when they come back, when they integrate the university, they do not have what they could be their future. And it is important to orient them. Also, it is, we have an incubator. And the name of the incubator is like testimony. In Wolof, it is Dekaliakar. It means restore hope, because sometimes they do not help about the future. You have seen that now you have many immigration, and with this incubator, it is to contribute to restore hope for the young people and to explore with them field such agricultural farms, but also to develop entrepreneurial skills for students and faculties. Not only for students, it is not only for students, but we also integrate some unemployed youngs which are in the city, like in Kafrine or also in Kaulak or Fatick too. The second mission or goal is to contribute on research and development. Not only research, fundamental research, but also research and development, but also innovation, because it is very important to develop scientific evidence for decision makers. It could be on climatic change or on other topics. It is very important. However, it is many challenges about that, because innovation is not very well developed. If I take the case of Senegal, we have few patents. Then if we have research, it is not very, the cycle is not very developed, because we have not how to commercialize this, commercialize and valorize this result. As a certain last one is promote community services. The community services is a public service requirement for public universities now in Senegal. And it is seen as like teaching activities, but also other social activities conducted by universities. And it was the case of the Climathon. Climathon organized in Senegal, in Kafrine, with FAO, but also in relation with the municipality of Kafrine. Kafrine is a small country, a small city, which is in the central part of Senegal. And we can say that it is at least on urban peri-urban city, and what was done is students go through the city to look for what kind of solution university could propose to the municipality. And the municipality identified that waste management is the most urgent problems. And for us, it was an important contribution to find solution or to propose solution. And it was an important solution. 15 students contributed to these initiatives. And at the end of the Climathon, all the projects were merged to give one project, which is now incubated in the UCAD, the Restore Hope incubators. And it is also a linkage because it could contribute to create jobs, green job, and also to maintain relationship between university and also the municipality. That's what I would like to share with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. So we have, thanks to you, restored the hope for youth mobilization. Now, at this stage, we will take something like 10 minutes for questions and answers. Thanks to the participation of Gilles and Isabelle. I give the floor to Isabelle, and we will perhaps take more time than expected at the beginning to have also the conclusions of Raoul at the end.
Thank you very much, Hervé. Hi, everyone. I'm Isabel Binelli. I work on circular bioeconomy in the Office of Climate Change, Biodiversity, Environment. I will be moderating this, I think, quite quicker Q&A session together with Gilles Martin. He's a senior technical advisor in IFAD. I would like firstly to thank you all of our panelists. They gave all, I think, really diverse range of perspective, but all complementary among themselves. And also I would like to thank Jane and Bernard for laying the ground with their technical work for our discussion. So now I would open the floor. Maybe we can take one or two questions, mindful of time. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Florence, working? Yeah, okay. Sorry. Florence Egal, UN Habitat. This was absolutely a fascinating session. And of course, in UN Habitat, we would really be interested in exploring more linkages. There's urban youth are mainstream throughout the activities of the organization. There's an urban youth fund, there's an urban youth advisory board, et cetera, et cetera. There is also one-step youth resource centers in Nairobi, Kampala, Uganda, Dar es Salaam, Kigali. So a lot of possibilities of exploring linkages. There has been for years a memorandum of understanding between FAO and UN Habitat. This being updated now, and this dimension is very important. The second point I would like to make is that there is going to be an event in the Red Room, a side event number 18 for the ones who are online who can register also, hold our seat to the table, maximizing transformative opportunities across the urban-rural agenda to to deliver healthy diets from sustainable food systems. So definitely, there is so many things, and I definitely hope to be able to have a chat with Jesse after the end of that session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, there are many complementaries. Yes, please.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for the interesting session. My name is Peter Wobst. I'm working in the same team as Jesse on decent rural employment, decent rural and not so rural, because when we actually concentrate on rural areas, we always have, especially in the context of agri-food systems, this continuum thinking that just was mentioned. So it's really the rural-urban continuum. I want to challenge us all a little bit on this, because I think when we come from a city's perspective, we very often have too much an urban perspective, and those linkages, absolutely vital linkages back into the rural space, are often missing. I wanted to add one of the HLPE reports that I think are absolutely critical for this exercise of the new one, which is promoting youth empowerment and employment in agriculture and food systems. And I'm not sure whether you have not mentioned it or whether I haven't heard it, but this is absolutely critical in this context, because it already puts actually youth into the food systems. It discusses youth agency. And again, it builds a conceptual approach. And Raul is sitting there in IFAD a couple of years ago when they put youth on their policy agenda. They did a rural development report on youth. Again, conceptually, a lot to actually build on and take and bring this forward into this context. So I mentioned the rural-urban continuum. I think this is absolutely vital. There's only one food system, right? A global food system, but then we can zoom in and concentrate. But if you look and concentrate on the urban food system, you really have to be aware of these linkages. And in this regard, two more quick points: right to food, right to cities, right to work. If you could consider this really as a triology of rights. I think employment is absolutely critical. We take this always as a motivating introduction. The 11 million jobs, where it's only 3 million being created. And then we sort of forget about it and we talk about youth in general, youth agency, and so on and so forth. It's about those employment opportunities, and employment is central for any development challenge, but certainly for climate change related challenges, where natural resource management, human capital, and technology come together. Thank you.
Thank you very much for stressing this important linkage and continuum, especially between urban and rural. I would like to take another question maybe, and maybe we can ask then our panelists if they want to react. Please.
Thank you, and good morning, and thank you for this session. Well, while the talks were going on, okay, my name is Olawale, I'm from Nigeria. From Africa. We're talking about young people in Africa. The perspective I am bringing on is on rural development. You know, there'll be less pressure on the urban if rural is developed. A lot of young people are, you know, migrating to urban area because there are no opportunities in the rural area. So instead of looking at agricultural development on one side, I think we should be looking at rural development, making the rural area more conducive, more attractive, more funky for young people to stay and make a life there. And what I've also seen is that the way agriculture is projected in Africa, it's in a manner that no young person will want to go. You know, when you see an advert about agriculture in Africa, you see a woman with wrinkled faces, with wrinkled eyes, you know, carrying hoes, cutlasses. You know, that is the perspective that I think is being projected for Africa. No young person, you know, we want to, you know, venture into this, because young person want to have a better life. They want to live better than their parent. But what we see is not, you know, so encouraging. So I think the world hold the young people the duty to make agriculture work, to make it attractive, so that, you know, we can actually limit the drift between the rural and the urban. So that's my contribution this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, maybe last one from the audience. I see also we have a question maybe in the chat. We will try to address also that if we have time. We're running 5 minutes late, I think. If you all can stay maybe 5 minutes more.
Thank you so much. So my name is Femi Adekoya. I'm also from Nigeria, and I'm a farmer. I'm a young farmer in Nigeria. So when I actually saw the topic, I was actually fascinated. And talking about mobilization, I've actually listened to a couple of ideas on the mobilization of this youth, particularly around food system as it concerns climate change. We have quite some number of innovation coming up, particularly in Nigeria, Lagos, and the cities, particularly. But as the doctoral students, has actually mentioned, we have quite a number of challenges. And I've actually not actually heard how or programs, set up to actually encourage entrepreneurship, because that is actually the easiest part, And when we talk about entrepreneurship, we're talking about setting up the fund, the knowledge, and all that. So what are the programs that are actually in place through the UN mechanism, that we can actually leverage to actually scale? Because these programs are already folks doing hydroponics, mushroom cultivation, stuffs that are actually urban, how can we actually scale them? Finance and other resources are in there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One of our panelists want to come in. Maybe Jesse, as you see that your presentation, you told not just about creating jobs, but also maybe empowering people in general, so when we can sustain the benefits also after the project ends.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for all the important, interesting comments and questions. I'll try to comment on, I guess, what you mentioned, but also what was previously said. So in terms of empowerment, I think what we've at least witnessed within our own project is that it's not just about one element. It's not about just providing resources to a young person. It's not about only providing training. We think that a lot of the high results that we've yielded in this project, especially around empowerment, has been because there's been a several-step approach where youth have first been provided with soft skills training and empowered to identify their own issues, their own problems within their respective communities. We're not telling them what they need to do, which value chain they need to work on. We're allowing them to discover what they believe is important and feel empowered to make those decisions themselves. And then after that's done, we provide them with sector-specific training on that technical area where they're working. And then we also provide them with those entrepreneurship business skills, including financial literacy, including digital literacy. And then we're providing them with the, let's say, seed resources to start or build their entrepreneurship, while at the same time, we're also providing the mentorship on the business side and the technical side. So we have this within this project, and this is a pilot project. It's not a scaled up large scale initiative. It is a pilot project, and we're also assessing now how we can work with the government to scale this up, to have more youth have access to these types of opportunities. But at least what we've witnessed and what we've heard from our youth participants is that it's been really this whole package product that they've been have access to, that it's enabled them to be successful, that's enabled them to start their business, grow that, and it will also be sustainable when we leave the project. So they have the technical capacity, they have the financial literacy, they have the business skills, they have the access to the markets, they have additional access to financial services. So it's not just one element that we're providing, but it's a holistic vision of entrepreneurship that we see that a lot of rural young people don't have. We know that young people don't have access or have limited access to financial services. We know that land is often an issue. We know that skills is an issue. That's why we're doing our best to provide that holistic package. And I think it's important what you mentioned in terms of scale, because it's key. And so it's also understanding how we can work with local authorities, implementing partners, academic institutions, to not just provide one element, but really look at all of the elements, all of the limitations that rural young people face, and ensure that they're being supported across the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jesse. I see there is a question in the chat. Maybe Gilles, you want to come in and maybe address it to our panelists, and then we close our session with closing remarks.
Yes, hello everybody. We had one question from Alsme Wudonhisi in the chat, and his question is, these young people are raising issues about linking the youth-led research outcomes to politics in order to alert the politicians to take appropriate actions. So the question is, how could FAO, an EU partner, effectively address this? And maybe FAO could reply, why not, but also this question could be addressed to Melika as a PhD researcher and Diegan as a professor in a local university in Africa. How young-led researchers' outcome can be addressed to politicians locally to take actions. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. I don't know if Prof. Jigen want to come in first.
Okay. I think one of the main results I would like to raise regarding the Climathon in Senegal, in Kaffrine, is a relationship that we create between with the municipality. And for that, we think that they have many projects, but usually one of the challenge is they do not know how to address this question about job opportunities. What is what can I say, the main door to knock for find this the result. And for us, we think that collaboration between municipalities, but also with ministries, because we have many opportunities to finance job creation, but it is very widely separated in many ministries. And we think that it would be important to have a synergistic relation with municipalities, universities, but also NGO and other organizations working on urban agenda. That's what I would like to say for that. Thank you, Gilles.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Melika, you want to come in as well?
Yes, I just want to add on just some points. I think they can also provide some adequate education and training, and also establish, for example, agri-tech incubator, and promote innovation, technology, and also entrepreneurship, as I mentioned in the room there. And also they can also promote agribusiness that will encourage and engage the youth to be involved in agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you, Melika. Is he also Bernard who wants to come in?
Just on this point, I would just say that in the continuum between rural and urban, we have big differences. The urban context is different, and the food and agri-food services in urban areas are different, and they have to be designed, created, and the projectors here show in an excellent way what are the opportunities and what are the challenges they have. And the second point, very briefly, is we have now heard what is said from these projects, from this interesting project. This will also nourish the process of elaborating the report of HLPE on urban and peri-urban food systems. And in 1 year, exactly 1 year, CFS 52, they will debate on the recommendations of CFS. And all ministers and governments will be here. And afterwards, they will digest this recommendation for the local application. That is an additional answer to the question which was raised. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernard. I would now, mindful of time, call Raul and Theo to give us the final remarks. Raul is a technical specialist working on youth and social inclusion in IFAD. Please, Raul. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Isabel, and good morning and good afternoon to those of us maybe joining us online as well. As Isabel said, my name is Rahul and I work in IFAD, and I work as a technical specialist focused on youth employment initiatives. So as someone coming from that background, I can safely tell you that I am very encouraged and enlightened by the discussion that has just happened today. Of course, a lot of my work has, as Peter also brought out, focused on rural young people. So to see the linkages and the connections also with the urban side has been an eye-opener for me at least. So it's very encouraging. And at the same time, I've got the challenging task of doing the closing remarks, of trying to sum up this rich discussion, which I'm going to try and put together. I'd just like to thank all our panelists for all their contributions. And I'd like to thank the audience as well for some of their contributions, which has been equally rich over here. There are a couple of points that I've scribbled down right now, which I'd like to probably maybe walk through a little bit. And perhaps one best place to start is something that Jane brought out right at the beginning, which is really the kind of statistics behind this. I mean, if we are talking about 10 million young people entering the labor market every year and only 3 million jobs being put into effect, then something is wrong and something needs to happen. We need to sort of allow and pave the way to open it up. And we are already seeing many of the initiatives that have already been discussed already taking action towards that. So it's encouraging. And I think, you know, one of the other points that Jane brought out was that if we fail to sort of tackle this issue, we could be looking not at a demographic dividend, but really at a ticking time bomb. And I think that's something for us to also take away of how do we really keep young people as stakeholders right at the center. And perhaps one of the reasons why young people are also uniquely positioned is because they probably have the most to lose from some of the decisions we make today. Them more than any other stakeholders. They have more stakeholding in the decisions that we make today, which really makes them a very interesting cohort. And I think the other thing to just remind ourselves is that youth is not really a thematic as much as they are people, you know, and it's a transition. Really, it's a social construct when we say youth, and it's just about looking at that transition from adolescence into adulthood and how well the world is going to manage that. So it's something that we also sort of need to keep in mind. And I think there's also, you know, additional sort of modeling that's been conducted by the ILO on if countries were to adopt greener policies, you know, how that would sort of come out. And it's very positive that if by 2030, if countries were to move their policies on a greener side, there would be net gains in green jobs that could be created. So it's something to also sort of keep in mind, and knowing that some of these initiatives are also sort of moving in that direction. There are three main messages that I sort of took away, and perhaps I'm not doing the best of justice to this, but I'd like to center a little bit of these closing remarks on those points. The first is that we really spoke a lot about agency and participation and decision making. And this is really important because, you know, young people are also very often, particularly in rural aspects, but also probably in urban, looked upon as the inexperienced, not only by their own communities, but also within the institutional political spectrum, where they're probably not very much engaged in participatory and decision-making processes. So it's really important that we sort of bring young people to the table, as has been said. I think there's this hierarchy of exclusion that does sort of exist. And so we need to tackle it both from the social side, but also from the institutional side to see how we can overcome that. And I think in many ways, as much as we are happy to, you know, inculcate or to push forward the idea of ownership onto young people, we need to start really looking at authorship and really bringing the pen to young people and asking them to sort of put down points. And I'm saying this because one of the points that has come out in our rural development report that Peter had made reference to was really that a lot of policies are really centered, they're more youth focused rather than youth centered. And so policies end up treating young people more as objects rather than as agents of change. And that really came out today from the discussions that we are having. So it's really about moving away from this idea of tokenistic value towards, you know, let's get young people at the table, to making it more meaningful in terms of participation. I think the second point that I gathered is an issue on inclusiveness. And this kind of talks and echoes also to the idea of agency and decision-making. But I think it's important that we recognize, and has already been said, that young people are not a homogeneous group. They're very heterogeneous, and they have very different identities. And we need to start appreciating the complexities behind these different profiles. We need to start considering the intersectionality between different groups within the same cohort, which comes to a question of, it's great, we're giving equality, let's give attention to the equity bit as well, because many people have come from different backgrounds, different education levels, different experiences, different assets, holdings, different ways of thinking. And so we need to start seeing how we can have a more equitable voice as well that is also heard. This also extends, as been said, to younger women who are probably even more burdened than their male counterparts, and probably even more burdened because of their age group status as well. But we also need to account for young people's aspirations when we look at inclusiveness. And this is, again, a point I feel like we have this big issue of what we call the aspiration attainment gap, where we're not listening essentially to what young people want, and they're not able to get what they want. And so somehow that match needs to be done at a better level. The third point that has been talked about is really about how do we get young people the right access to assets, skills, and services. And this has been come out from a number of speakers. And it's really here about looking at, if we were to move towards these green jobs, then we really need to look at the knowledge, abilities, values, and attitudes to support sustainable and resource efficient society. So it's something that we need to account for in terms of what kind of productive resources which are sustainable and resilient do we need to put in place? What kind of green skills do we need to put in place? And reminding ourselves that skills will also change as we're looking towards greener jobs. And finally, what kind of services do we need to put into place so that we can facilitate all these linkages? I think one last point that has really sort of come out for me also through some of these discussions, and I think it was explicitly brought out with Sylvia's presentation on the Climathon, is really looking at, we using these words food systems, ecosystems. I think we need to start looking at what we mean by a system itself, because I think very often we take a very systematic approach to our work, but we neglect a systemic approach to our work. And I think it's time we move away from this linear input-output way of looking at even development and appreciating, again, the complexities behind a lot of these issues and channeling more of a systemic approach. And this is an open call for action to everyone to take a more systems thinking approach towards the work that we do, which means that we really need to start looking at the relationship between the elements in a system. And for that, we've heard about how working together with municipalities can bring about, different positive effects. The same with working with research institutions, working with the private sector or the public sector. All of these need to work in a very well-coordinated, systemic way so that we can really sort of flourish within a food system. And I think it's important also to take into consideration, the point, again, that Peter made on this rural-urban continuum, but keeping in mind that, yes, different people will experience, the food system in a different way, and in the urban context, it might change. But that said, urban youth is very much a rural youth issue because, as has been said, there's a lot of migration and out-migration also from rural areas into urban areas. We need to account for those issues. So the point that I got from everyone's presentation at the end of the day, the lowest common denominator is really about sort of taking the SDG 17 forward, and it's really about collaboration and partnership and getting us all together. So I'd like to thank our colleague from our sister organization at UN Habitat also for taking the floor and also encouraging more linkages. And with that, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming here early this morning, and I'll close here. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Just a word to say that the session is over now. Thanks very much for also CFS organizers. They were very nice to give us this opportunity. Thanks, Raoul, for these concluding remarks, and thanks for all the speakers, and especially with thanks Bernard, the chairman of the HLPE. We are looking forward to the next report, and we hope that there will be a lot of inspiration also for Jane on that and for the other authors. Finally, for the Green City Initiative of FAO, it's very inspiring also. We get new ideas, and I will share with the team. Thank you very much again for your participation. Thanks you also for the public participant online and in the room. See you next time.